Hello students, Standard 8. Today we are going to start the revision in chemistry, chapter number 4, materials, metals and non-metals. Now most of you are already familiar with some metals like copper, aluminium, iron, etc. And some non-materials also, like non-metals are sulfur, coal, the gases like hydrogen, oxygen, etc. Now, what are the physical properties that make them different from each other? So, first of all, we will see the physical properties of metals. We know that generally the metals have shiny appearance, or their surface can be polished to shine. It means that they have luster. So generally all the metals have luster. Means their surfaces are shiny. The other thing is that most of the metals are hard. So they are not compressible. They are generally very hard. But in some case, for exception, some of the metals are very soft that they can be cut using the knife. Sodium and potassium are such metals. They are so soft that we can cut them using a knife. Same like when you cut a candle with a knife, same you can use knife to cut the metals like sodium. But they have all other properties of metals, so they are categorized as metals, not the non-metals. And the other thing is that the physical property that most of the metals are in the solid form. But for exception, here also there is one metal which is not solid at room temperature, but it is liquid. And that liquid metal, you are familiar with it. That is the mercury. Mercury, which is used in the thermometer. In thermometer you see that shiny liquid which rise up in that slit. That is the liquid metal thermometer. I mean the mercury. જેને ગુજરાતીમાં પારો પણ કહેવામાં આવે. So that mercury is only the metal which is in the liquid form. All the others like iron, copper, aluminium, gold, silver, all of them are solid form except the metal which is in liquid form is the mercury. Then the other is that all the metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. All the metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. That is also a physical property. And therefore we know that the metallic wires are used to conduct electricity, like copper wire or aluminium wire are used in the wirings and so on. Similarly, because they are good conductor of heat, all our cooking utensils are made from the metals, so that they are good conductor of heat, so heat can pass through them and they can cook the food. So the property is that they are good conductors of heat and electricity, except the mercury is little poor conductor of heat. Then the other physical property of metals is the malleability. Malleability and ductility are also that all the metals are malleable and most of the metals are ductile also. Now, what is malleability and ductility and sonority? Means the metals are sonorous also. There are the other three properties. Which are the other three properties? Most of the metals are malleable, most of the metals are ductile, and they are sonorous also. So these are the different physical properties of the metals. And in that I told you some exceptions also. Now the three terms, malleability, ductility and sonority, we will learn about it in detail. Malleability. Malleability means we can hammer the metals to make very, very thin sheets. By hammering it, when we hammer the metals, then very thin foils can be made. And you are aware about it. You are familiar with the silver foil or the gold foil, which are used to decorate some sweets like your kaju katri and some other burfis that you buy. On that, a very thin layer of silver, which is known as silver foil. So silver foil is the very, very thin sheet of that metal silver. Similarly, the aluminium foils are also very, very useful in the packaging of the food materials like chocolates and chips, potato chips, etc. They are used for the wrapping the food also. So that property is due to the malleability, means the metals can be beaten or hammered to make the thin sheets. So that property is known as malleability. Similarly, the other property is ductility, means the metals are ductile. What is meaning of ductility? Ductility means from the metals you can draw very thin wires. For example, we use the aluminium wire, copper wire in conducting electricity. Similarly, the gold and silver wires are used to make the ornaments, jewelries, etc. So that is the thing which is known as the ductility. So the property of metal by which it can be drawn into wires is called ductility. So the metals are malleable, metals are ductile also. Similarly, the third important property is the sonority, means the metals are sonorous. Sonorous means if you drop any metallic object on a hard material, then what happens? It makes sound, sonoring sound. So that producing sound is known as the sonority. So metals produce ringing sound. If you drop a coin and a piece of wood, which will give you ringing sound, that will be the coin, because it is made from metals. So these are the physical properties. We will repeat. Metals are having luster, means they are shiny. They are hard, except sodium, potassium are soft. They are good conductors of heat and electricity. They are in solid form, except mercury at room temperature is in liquid form. And the metals are malleable, ductile and sonorous. These are the all physical properties of metals. So we discussed about first, second and the third question. Now the non-metals. What are the physical properties of non-metals? Non-metals are having totally different properties than the metallic elements. We saw that metals are generally having luster, means shiny material. On the contrary, the non-metals are generally having dull surface. You know that coal or sulfur, etc. They all are having this dull surface, means they don't have luster. In that also there is exception. A form of copper, carbon, that is graphite. Graphite which is used in the lead of the pencil. That graphite is little shiny. Similarly, there is another non-metal, iodine. Iodine also have a shiny appearance. So there is exception in which two are that they are non-metals but they have shiny luster like the metals have. Generally, the non-metals are soft or brittle. Brittle means if you hammer them, they break into pieces. For example, you see if you hammer the coal, what will happen? If you hammer the sulfur, what will happen? It break into small pieces. So they are generally soft or brittle, but in that also there is an exception. That one of the form of carbon, which is known as diamond. Diamond is a non-metal, but it is the hardest material known in the world. There is no other material is harder than it. So the diamond, which is the different form of a carbon, and that is non-metal but it is the hardest, means it is hard material like the metals. Secondly, next physical property, that generally all the non-metals are poor conductor of heat and electricity. But for exception, the diamond is good conductor of heat, and the graphite that you use as a lead of the pencil, graphite is a good conductor of electricity. It is a non-metal, but exception is that it is a good conductor of electricity, and therefore it is used in the cells that we use, that dry cell in our remote controls, in our torch, etc. If you open the used batteries cell, then in the middle you will find a black rod that is made up of the graphite, because graphite is the good conductor of electricity. So it is used as electrodes in the electrical appliances. So generally the metals are exactly as I told you, they are bad or the poor conductor of heat and electricity, except the graphite is the exception in it, which is good conductor of electricity. Other thing is that non-metals are not malleable. Means you cannot make very thin sheets from the non-metals. If you beat the carbon coal, can you make very thin sheet of it? No. It will turn into powder. Similarly, if you take sulfur, it is not gonna make thin sheets. So they are not malleable. Similarly, you cannot make the wire from the coal or sulfur or hydrogen, nitrogen, which are non-metals. So they are also not ductile, they are not even sonorous. Because when we beat them, when we drop them on the hard surfaces, then they will not produce the ringing sound. And generally, the non-metals are in the two type of forms, that are solid and gases. For example, coal, sulfur, that are in the solid form. Phosphorus are also in the solid form. Hydrogen, nitrogen, chlorine, they are in the gaseous form. But in the non-metals also there is only one non-metal is such that it is in the liquid form at the room temperature. Only one non-metal is there, and that is the bromine. So metal also there is only one liquid, that is mercury. And non-metal is also only one which is in the liquid form, that is the bromine. So these are the liquid form at room temperature, which are the bromine in the non-metal category and the mercury in the metallic category, that they are having the they are in the liquid form at the room temperature. So that is the thing that we learn today about the metals and non-metals. So the metals and non-metals, today we learn about the most important, their physical properties, and because of that different physical properties we divide them into two categories, like metals and non-metals. So we discussed almost all of the questions in the assignment, and it will be followed in the PDF. So you will write down their answers as an assignment in your notebook, and if any confusion, write down in the comment section. Thank you very much.